People don't judge your intelligence by your ideas. They judge it by how your English sounds.
It's a painful truth, Sarah. You could be the smartest person in the room, but if your English sounds nice or unsure instead of expensive, you are invisible.
Welcome back to Business English for Success. I'm Sarah.
And I'm James. Today, we aren't just teaching you English, we're teaching you how to reclaim your authority.
James, let's solve that pain of feeling overlooked in high-stakes meetings. We're going to show you how to command the room with simple, structured English that sounds high status. No fancy words, no complicated grammar, just pure executive presence.
We've expanded this into 10 deep dive segments, covering everything from the words you must delete today to the way you handle high-pressure disagreements. We will analyze the psychology behind every premium communication choice.
Stick with us until the end because the pattern breaks and the luxury strategies we've included throughout this video will change the way you think about your career forever. James, are you ready to reveal the silent killers of professional reputation?
Let's get into it. I think people are going to be shocked at how much one tiny word is costing them.
Let's start with the first pillar, weak words. In my years of executive coaching, I've seen brilliant managers lose the respect of the board in seconds. And usually it's not because of what they said, but the weakness they wrapped their ideas in.
When you say weakness, you're talking about those filler words we use when we're nervous, right? Like the word just.
Exactly. I'm just checking in. I just think maybe. James, when you say just, you are psychologically shrinking yourself. You are telling the listener that your request is small, so they have permission to ignore it.
It's like we're apologizing for taking up space in the room. We use maybe or kind of to sound polite, but it actually makes us sound like we don't believe in our own data.
Precisely. High-status English is about clarity. If you say, I think maybe we should try to start the meeting, you sound like you're asking for permission. An expensive communicator doesn't ask for permission to lead.
So the rule for our listeners is strong sentences don't ask for permission. Instead of that long, weak sentence, what should they say?
Just 2 words. Let's begin. Or, we can start by. Notice the difference. You start with a strong verb. You are leading the action. You aren't trying to do something. You are doing it.
I've noticed that when I remove those shrinking words, my emails even look more professional. It's like cleaning a dirty window. Suddenly, the message is clear.
It is. And remember, authority isn't about being rude. It's about being efficient. An executive's most valuable asset is time. If you waste their time with filler fluff, you sound cheap. If you get straight to the point with strong verbs, you sound expensive.
That makes so much sense, Sarah. I'm going to start deleting just from my vocabulary immediately. But, cutting words is only half the battle. I've seen people use strong words, but they keep talking and talking until they lose the room's attention anyway. It's like they're afraid of the quiet.
That is the perfect bridge to our next point, James. Most people talk more because they are anxious. But in the world of high-status English, silence is a position of power. Let's talk about why the person who speaks the least often has the most authority.
Sarah, I have to admit, early in my career, I was terrified of silence. In a meeting, if no one was talking for 3 seconds, I felt I had to fill the gap. I thought that was being helpful.
That is what we call nervous rambling, and it is a silent career killer. When you continue to talk after you've made your point, you are literally discounting your own value. It's like a salesman who keeps talking after the customer has already said yes. They eventually talk themselves out of the deal.
Discounting your own value. That hits hard. So why do we do it? Why is silence so uncomfortable for us?
Psychologically, we equate silence with rejection. We think if people aren't reacting, we need to justify our position more. But expensive English is about control. When you are confident in your value, you don't need to over-explain.
So the expensive move is to stop early, state the point, and then nothing.
State your point and then stop. Did you feel that, James? That silence forced you to focus on me. It gave my words weight.
It really did. It felt intense. It makes the listener think, wow, they are very sure of what they just said.
Exactly. Silence after clarity is power. Executives don't ramble. They speak in short, impactful sentences, and they let the silence do the work of persuasion. If you want to sound senior, you have to get comfortable with the discomfort of a quiet room.
Own the silence to own the room. I love that. But Sarah, once I've mastered the pause, I still need to make sure the structure of my thoughts is solid. Sometimes I stop talking, but I feel like my ideas were a bit messy to begin with.
And that is exactly what we need to solve next, James. You can't have a powerful pause if you don't have a powerful framework. You don't need a massive vocabulary if you know how to frame your thoughts like a CEO. Let's look at the simple structures that will make you sound organized and executive even when you're under pressure. James, let's move to our third pillar. I call this the executive framework. Most people struggle because they think professional English means using long, complex words to describe a simple situation.
Ooh, you mean like saying, the current socio-economic landscape is necessitating a paradigm shift in our fiscal allocation. It sounds like a textbook, Sarah. No one actually talks like that in a real boardroom.
Exactly. And if you do, people will think you're hiding something. High-status communicators use structure phrases. These are simple anchors that help the listener's brain organize information.
So it's not about the vocabulary, it's about the logic. Give me an example of an expensive anchor.
Instead of wandering into a problem, you lead with, "Here is the issue," or "The main risk is this." Think about the psychology here, James. When you say, "Here is the issue," you are telling everyone, stop looking at the chaos, look at exactly what I am pointing at.
Wow, it creates a spotlight effect. You aren't just talking, you are directing the meeting. I've noticed that CEOs always do this. They don't say, I think there's a little thing we should talk about regarding the budget.
No, they say, "The budget is the priority. What we need now is a revised plan." 5 basic words, but it sounds expensive because it's decisive. It's the difference between being a participant and being a leader.
It's like you're giving them a map before you take them on the journey. It makes the listener feel safe. They know exactly where the conversation is going.
Precisely. Expensive English is about control. Use phrases like, "This leads to one decision," or "My recommendation is based on 3 factors." When you give people a number or a clear direction, you sound senior instantly.
That is a massive hack for anyone who feels messy when they speak. It's about building a frame for the conversation. But Sarah, even with a great frame, things in the real world can get, well, ugly. What happens when our structure hits a crisis, like mistakes, delays, or bad news? That's when most people lose their cool and start making excuses again.
That is the ultimate test of an executive, James, and it brings us to a very premium way of handling crisis. Instead of the story or the drama, we focus on the action. Let me show you how to handle a mistake without losing an ounce of your dignity in our next pillar, statement to action.
This part feels very relevant. In a global company, mistakes are inevitable. My first instinct is always to apologize profusely. "I'm so sorry, I missed the email, it won't happen again, I was so busy."
James, stop. That is cheap English. When you over-explain, you are actually bleeding authority. You sound like a student explaining to a teacher why they didn't do their homework.
Ouch, that hurts. But isn't it polite to explain why something happened?
In a social setting, yes. In an executive setting, no. Leaders care about the solution, not the story. To sound expensive, you must follow the 3-step rule: statement, action, no emotion.
Okay, walk me through a real-world example.
Version A, the cheap way. I'm so sorry the report is late. My internet was down and I had a family emergency. Please don't be mad. Now, version B, the expensive way. The report is delayed. I will have it on your desk by 4 p.m. today.
That felt powerful. You didn't even say sorry, but I trust you more in version B. Why is that?
Because in version B, you are focused on the future. The report is delayed is the statement. It's a fact. I will have it by 4 p.m. is the action. By cutting the excuses, you show that you are in control of the fix.
I see. Over-explaining makes the mistake feel bigger, but a statement to action makes the mistake feel like a small bump in the road that you've already handled. It's like a pilot during turbulence, right?
Exactly. They don't explain how the wind works. They just say, we are experiencing turbulence. Please remain seated. Statement, action. It creates immediate trust.
I'm writing that down. Statement to action. It's about being the calm in the storm. But Sarah, even with the right words and the right mindset, there's one thing that can destroy all this progress in a second. I'm talking about the actual sound of our voice. If your words are expensive, but your voice sounds like a question, the illusion is gone, isn't it?
You're reading my mind, James. It's called upspeak, and it is a silent career killer. If you want to know how to use the physical frequency of your voice to command respect, you need to hear what we have to say next about the sound of status. James, let's get physical. We've covered the words, we've covered the structure, but now we need to talk about the vibrations. You can use the most expensive phrases in the world, but if your voice sounds like a question, people will treat your ideas like a suggestion.
Sounding like a question. You mean upspeak, right? I see this everywhere in corporate offices lately, especially when people are presenting to senior management.
Exactly. Upspeak is when your pitch goes up at the end of a sentence. My name is Sarah, and I'm the project lead. It makes you sound like you're 15 years old asking for permission. It's the ultimate status killer. It tells the room, I'm not sure about what I'm saying. Please validate me.
So, Sarah, if upspeak is cheap, what is the expensive frequency? How do we sound like the person in charge?
It's called the downward inflection. My name is Sarah. I am the project lead. Did you hear that? The tone drops at the end. It signals that the matter is settled. There is no room for doubt.
The matter is settled. Wow, I can actually feel my chest vibrating when I do that. It feels much more solid, heavy.
That's because it is heavy, James. High-status individuals speak from their chest, not their throat. And they understand one thing. Expensive English is never rushed. When you rush your words, you are telling the room, I don't think my ideas are worth your time, so I'll finish as fast as I can.
Rushing is a sign of low status. That's deep. It's like a luxury brand again. They don't rush you through the store. They move at their own pace because they know you will wait for them.
Exactly. If you want to sound senior, you have to be comfortable with the silence between your words. You have to own the air.
Downward inflection. Speak from the chest. Own the air. I can feel my confidence rising already. But Sarah, it's one thing to sound powerful when you're giving a presentation. It's another thing when someone interrupts you or disagrees with you aggressively. That's when most people's voices start to shake again.
You're right, James. That is where we separate the managers from the leaders. In our next pillar, we're going to master elegant disagreement. I'm going to show you how to win a debate without ever raising your voice or losing your expensive tone.
Sarah, this part I struggle with most. When someone says something I disagree with in a meeting, my heart starts racing. My gut wants to defend my idea. I want to say, no, that's not right, or you're missing the point. But I know that sounds defensive.
And the moment you say no or you're wrong, you've lost the expensive game. Why? Because you've made it personal. You've created cheap friction. High-status people don't fight, they redirect.
Redirect? How do you redirect a direct attack on your strategy or your budget?
You use the curiosity shift. Instead of being a wall that blocks them, you become a mirror that reflects them. You replace your defensiveness with high-level inquiry.
Give me the script, Sarah. What does an expensive disagreement sound like?
If someone attacks your plan, don't defend it. Say, I see your point. How does that align with our primary objective of growth? Or, I have a different perspective on these numbers. Shall we compare the data points?
I have a different perspective. That sounds so untouchable. It's not you are wrong, it's the data might be saying something else.
Exactly. You are removing your ego from the room. When you say, shall we compare, you are inviting them to a logical exercise, not a street fight. You remain calm, you remain expensive, while they look emotional and cheap if they continue to argue.
I love that. High status removes the ego, not the person. It's about keeping the bridge open while still holding your ground firmly.
Remember, James, the person who stays calm the longest usually wins the boardroom. If you can handle a disagreement with a smile and a structure phrase like, help me understand your reasoning, you have already won the respect of everyone watching.
I'm feeling more confident just listening to this. It's about being a mirror, not a wall. But Sarah, even if we master the voice and the conflict, there's a trap that even very smart people fall into because they want to prove how intelligent they are. I'm talking about the advanced vocabulary trap.
Oh, James, you hit a nerve. People think that to stay at this high level, they need to start using words like nevertheless, or heretofore, or commence. In our next segment, we're going to destroy the vocabulary myth. I'm going to show you why those fancy words are actually a sign of insecurity, and why simple is the new rich in business English. James, let's talk about a disease I see in global offices every single day. I call it the sophistication trap. It's that desperate urge to use the word utilize when you could just say use.
Oh, I know that one. Or using subsequent to instead of after, and commence instead of start. It feels like people are trying to write a 17th century poem instead of just having a business conversation. Why do we do that to ourselves?
Because of insecurity, James. We think that if the words are long, our brain must be big. But here is the high-status truth. Complex words are often a camouflage for weak ideas. When you use jargon that nobody uses in real life, you aren't sounding expensive, you're sounding like you're trying to sound expensive. And that trying is the definition of cheap.
That is a powerful distinction. It's like wearing a suit that's 3 sizes too big just because it has a designer label. It doesn't look good, it looks desperate. But Sarah, don't we need some professional vocabulary?
Think about the world's most powerful leaders. When a top-tier CEO speaks to their board, they don't use fancy words. They use clean words. In expensive English, clarity is the ultimate luxury. If I say we need to synergize our cross-functional capabilities, your brain gets tired trying to decode it. But if I say we need to work together on what we do best, everyone understands instantly.
So, the expensive version is the one that achieves the goal with the least amount of mental friction.
Precisely. High status is having the confidence to be simple. If you can explain a $1 million project using words a 10-year-old understands, you aren't just an English speaker, you are a master of the subject.
This is such a relief for everyone listening. You don't need to swallow a dictionary to be respected. You just need to be brave enough to be clear. But Sarah, being simple is easy when things are going well. What happens when we hit a wall? I mean, a big, expensive mistake. How do we apologize simply without sounding like we're begging for our jobs?
That is a critical skill, James. And expensive apology is not about your feelings or your guilt. It's about accountability. In our next pillar, I'm going to give you the exact four-word phrase that can save your reputation in any crisis. Let's look at how to apologize without losing your dignity.
Sarah, I've been there. You miss a major deadline or you send a sensitive email to the wrong person, your heart drops. Your first instinct is to say, "I'm so sorry. I'm so embarrassed. Please don't be mad at me." Does that sound expensive?
That sounds like a victim, James, and victims are never seen as leaders. An expensive apology is never about your emotions or your excuses. It is 100% about accountability and action.
So do we just skip the "I'm sorry" part entirely?
You can say, "My apologies," to acknowledge the friction, but you must immediately pivot. Listen to this. Version A, the cheap way. "I'm so sorry for the error. I feel terrible. I'll try to fix it." Now, version B. "That's my oversight. Here is the revised plan to resolve the issue by 5 p.m."
That's my oversight. Wow, those 4 words sound incredibly senior. It's like you're saying, "I made a mistake," but you're saying it with your head held high.
Exactly. Oversight is an executive word. It implies that you are usually perfect, and this was just a small thing that slipped through. By saying, "That's my oversight," instead of, "I'm sorry, I'm so stupid," you keep your status intact.
And the magic is in the second half. Here is the revised plan. You didn't wait for the boss to yell at you or tell you what to do. You took ownership of the fix before they could even ask.
That is the key, Janes. Accountability is expensive. Excuses are cheap. When you take ownership of a mistake without the drama, people actually trust you more. They see you as someone who can handle pressure without crumbling.
I'm going to practice that phrase, "That's my oversight." It turns a negative situation into a display of leadership. It's brilliant. But Sarah, there's another situation that feels just as risky as apologizing, and that's saying no. How do we stay expensive when we have to decline a request from someone important, or even our own boss?
That is the ultimate sign of high value, James. It's what I call the scarcity strategy. If you say yes to everything, you sound like a generalist. If you want to know how to say no in a way that actually makes people respect your time more, you need to hear this next part. James, let's talk about a concept from the luxury world: scarcity. Why is a Rolex more expensive than a plastic watch? It's not just the materials. It's because you can't just walk in and get one anytime you want.
True. The difficulty of getting it is part of the brand's value. But Sarah, how do we apply scarcity to our English at work? Most people think being available and saying yes is how you get promoted.
That is the biggest mistake middle managers make. If you are always saying yes to every small task, you sound cheap. You sound like someone who doesn't have important, high-level work to do. High-status people protect their time like it's gold.
I've been that person, Sarah. I said yes because I was afraid of appearing lazy. So how do we say no without burning bridges?
We use the priority trade-off. You don't say, "No, I'm too busy." That sounds emotional. You say, "I can certainly prioritize that. Which of my current projects should I deprioritize to make room for this?"
Wow, you're forcing them to realize how busy and valuable you are. You're making them choose.
Exactly. You are using structure instead of emotion. Another expensive way to decline is, "I'm not the best person to lead this, but I can provide a brief consultation." You see, you are protecting your execution time while still offering your expertise. You remain the expert, not the assistant.
I'm not the best person to lead this. It sounds so honest and self-aware. It shows you have a strategy for your career.
When you say no with expensive English, you aren't being a bottleneck. You are being a premium resource. And once people realize your time is limited, they will value your yes 10 times more.
So say no to protect the power of your yes. It's a total mindset shift. But Sarah, there's one person I'm still terrified to use these strategies with, my boss. I mean, it's one thing to say no to a colleague, but how do I apply all of this to the person who actually signs my paycheck without sounding disrespectful?
That is the final piece of the puzzle, James. It's what we call managing up. It's the art of moving from being an employee to being a trusted partner. Let's look at how to lead your leader in our final pillar.
Sarah, managing up sounds a bit intimidating. What does it actually look like in a real conversation? How do I tell my boss a better way to do things without sounding like I'm challenging their authority?
It's all about the shift from a service mindset to a partner mindset. A cheap communicator asks, "What do you want me to do next, boss?"
That sounds like a waiter taking an order. It's very low status.
Precisely. An expensive communicator brings a recommendation and asks for a perspective. Listen to the difference. Instead of asking for permission, you say, "Based on our goals, I suggest we focus on X. What is your perspective on this direction?"
What is your perspective? Instead of, is that okay with you?
Yes. Is that okay is a child asking a parent for permission. What is your perspective is one leader consulting another leader. You are treating your boss as an advisor, which is a compliment to them, while you remain the owner of the project.
So it's about ownership. You take ownership of the solution, and they provide the guidance. That is a total status flip. You aren't just an employee anymore. You are a successor.
Exactly. When you use simple, structured English to lead your boss, they stop seeing you as someone they have to supervise and start seeing you as someone they can trust to run things. That is how you get promoted without even asking for it.
Sarah, we have covered so much today, from killing weak words to the power of silence, and now to managing up. I feel like I've just finished a $5,000 executive coaching session. It's been an incredible journey.
And we did it all without a single fancy word, James. Authority isn't about the complexity of your vocabulary, it's about the control you have over your communication. Let's wrap this up for our listeners.
You know, Sarah, the biggest takeaway for me today is that expensive English isn't about being arrogant or sounding like someone you're not.
You're right, James. It's about self-respect. It's about valuing your own ideas enough to present them clearly, calmly, and without apology.
If you're watching this, remember, you don't need to swallow a dictionary. You don't need to hide your accent. You just need to stop shrinking and start leading with the English you already have.
If your English is simple but structured, you already sound senior. If you can stay calm when others are panicking, you already sound expensive.
If today's deep dive changed your perspective, please do us a favor. Hit that like button and subscribe to Business English for Success. It tells the algorithm that this kind of professional, high-value content is exactly what you want more of.
And don't forget to check the description for a high-status cheat sheet of the 10 pillars we've covered today. We want to see you thrive in your global career.
I'm James.
And I'm Sarah. Until next time, keep your English simple, your structures strong,
And your value expensive. Goodbye.